Hi guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another walk and talk, just out getting some fresh air, doing a bit of exercise, all the usual good stuff that I've been getting up to over the last kind of week or so. We are going to be discussing Bitcoin. We've got some interesting kind of things, I guess, bubbling in the background that I thought would make a good topic of discussion. Okay, so as I get into the video, you know what to do. Smash that like button, I appreciate that. If you're new, subscribe. And if you haven't yet joined us in Discord, why not check it out? Link is in the description down below. So let's kind of kick things off with talking about Bitcoin, right? So we have seen Bitcoin's price move quite significantly to the upside. This is not new news. We've seen Bitcoin kind of, bubbling around a little bit now. With these recent movements in price, it has obviously fueled a lot of speculation, and specifically around Bitcoin spot ETFs, which is actually kind of the catalyst for this move to the upside in itself anyway. Right, we have seen, of course, a lot of fake news around the Bitcoin spot ETF. That's kind of what fueled the initial surge. We saw tickers appear and disappear on websites, and ultimately it kind of led to Bitcoin kind of taking out that $35,000 CME gap, right? And it's fantastic to see Bitcoin kind of moving this way. It gives us a bit of an idea as to kind of what we think, is capable, or what Bitcoin is capable of in the near future. But of course, I cannot help but wonder to myself, is all of this just the biggest bull trap in Bitcoin history, right? We kind of have alluded to this a little bit in this morning's video. When I was taking a look at the technical analysis of Bitcoin, it's really obvious to note that there really isn't a lot of volume behind the price action of Bitcoin. And when there is a lack of volume like this, essentially it means there's a lack of demand. Now, I know a lot of people want there to be a bull market, myself included, right? I'd love to see us in a bull market for the crypto space. However, we have to be a little bit more realistic. The very definition of a bull market is when the demand outpaces that of the supply. With the volume profiles that we see at the moment, it's more indicative of a bear market where the supply is outpacing that of the demand, which makes you wonder how on earth is price moving up the way that it is when there isn't really a lot of volume behind the price. Well, there's only really a handful of options that are left if you follow that kind of train of thought. Essentially, market makers and whale activity. Essentially, manipulation of the price action. So with these things, we have to also note that there's some interesting things cropping up in the news as well, right? We have seen speculation, wild speculation, I guess, that a Bitcoin spot ETF could happen within the week, within a couple of weeks, right? And it's just around the corner. I want to kind of be put on the record as saying that would be fantastic. I would love a Bitcoin spot ETF from BlackRock to be approved within a week. I would love that, but I don't think that's realistic. My expectations personally are we're probably not going to be looking at a Bitcoin spot ETF until 2024. Now, that might not be what you want to hear, but essentially that is my actual thoughts and opinions on it. Now, I want Bitcoin to do incredibly well because the rest of the crypto space will perform incredibly well with it. But there are some glaring issues at the moment, right? So we talked about volume, we talk about lack of demand for BTC. We can also note that there's a lot of political issues with the Bitcoin spot ETF as well, 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗓𝗔𝗠𝗪 being probably one of the main antagonists when it comes to cryptocurrency at the moment. And so we kind of have to bear in mind that although we want these things to happen, there is going to be a correct way of kind of seeing them actually come to fruition. And what I mean by this is, give it time, be patient. Nothing, or let's just say Rome wasn't built overnight, right? And essentially these things do take a little bit of time to actually play out. So with volume profiles the way that they are, lack of demand, insufficient kind of reasons and rationale as to why we should be pushing to the upside, with this fake news and these fake things happening, to me just feels like big blatant fuckery from the market makers and whales, basically manipulating retail investors to FOMO in and to provide liquidity so that they can exit their positions. What does all this mean? Well, if you've been following my recent videos, you'll know that essentially all of these things kind of combine together to make me feel a little bit bearish on the kind of medium term. I think on the short term, we can probably see a little bit more of a move to the upside. I wouldn't be surprised if $37,000 to $38,000 Bitcoin, for example. But on the medium term, we should be thinking about a move downwards. We do not have the volume profiles to support Bitcoin at these key levels of around $30,000 to $35,000, and essentially we should start thinking that Bitcoin probably does need to see those profits taken off the table, and it probably needs to move down towards $20,000. Now, I know what you're thinking, $20,000, I'm just plucking numbers out of the air, right? And I'm not really. I mean, $20,000 to $21,000 is the CME gap on the daily time frame. So this is the futures market where we see a difference between the closed position and the open position across 2 different days. Now, the CME gap at $35,000 has now been filled, and that's a good sign that things have progressed quite nicely. But ultimately, the next one, $20,000 to $21,000. This is also a very key area for Bitcoin. It was the 2017 high at $20,000, and so a retest of this key area could be very important for Bitcoin. It's also a key area of support that we saw back in 2021 and 2022, and so we want to kind of keep an eye on this particular range. If Bitcoin does move down to the $20,000 level, it's about a 40% reduction in price, which would be pretty consistent with a Fed pivot and what you'd expect to see around that time. A Fed pivot of which I believe is more likely going to happen in 2024 than we are likely to see in 2023. But again, I'd love to be wrong on all these things because I would love the Bitcoin to kind of rally up quite strongly. I'd love for us to be in a crypto bull market. I just don't think we're there yet. And so my expectations are we're probably going to be looking for corrections down towards $20,000 over the next couple of months, and that's the opportunity. As I've been talking about for a few days now, when Bitcoin does move on down towards $20,000, the altcoins are going to bleed out pretty hard. We're going to see some fantastic opportunities to dollar cost average into some of our favorite altcoins out there. And that's going to be a huge opportunity for massive uptake and massive percentage gains in that next bullish market, which I think will happen and will start in 2024. And so let me know what your thoughts are on all of this down in the comments below. Do you think that Bitcoin is being manipulated up towards the higher ranges? And do you think that we're going to see a move to the downside with $20,000 being a key support area? I'm really interested to canvass everyone's thoughts and opinions on this. Do you think that this is the right approach? Or do you think just buying at 35K and just forgetting about it also works quite well? I'm going to wrap this video up right there. If you have found it useful, informative, smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. And if you haven't yet joined us in Discord, what are you waiting for? Check it out. Link is in the description down below. Until the next one though, guys, have a fantastic day.